Okay. There's another marvelous physiological programming that God gave us for our blues, for our depression, and it's called crying. Sometimes just simply to feel your sorrow and allow yourself to have a good cry, very therapeutic. And guys hardly ever do it enough. It's something they want to do, but they've been told, be a man. Even they're a little boy, be a man. Okay. Programming there prevents a very wonderful natural release. But if you're crying every day, that's a sign you need some help. But if you cry now and then, I don't know if any of you guys have cried this past year. I don't know. Maybe. Depends on what happened. If somebody died, maybe. But the thing is, and ladies are often able to cry more easily and at the right time, that kind of thing. They're able to cry more often. But sometimes, no time for tears. But sometimes, just what you need is a good cry. There's also a beautiful practice when you're dealing with the fact that you're trying to depress. You can counter that by doing something that yogis love to do. We love to just mentally chant, holy, holy, holy. And just say, God, you say everything's holy. I don't see it in this situation. It looks pretty unholy to me. But you just relax and inside you're just chanting, holy, holy, holy. If you know a tune, you can chant the tune. It doesn't have to have a tune. You just chant holy, holy, holy. And very often you feel again profound comfort because it's Maya that makes everything seem to be unholy and conflict and chaos and sorrow and depression. So I'd like you to just try about 5 minutes of just chant holy, 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 and just see if you can sense everything. Everything everywhere is full of spirit, which is holy. The appearance may not be holy. We don't see it that way because it's an appearance. But try to sense underneath it all, everything that exists, even a thought, even a negative thought, is made out of spirit. Its essence is spirit. We're trying to sense the essence of everything just by chanting holy, holy, holy. So let's do 5 minutes of chanting holy, holy, holy. Just enjoy something important. What if it's true? Yogis and saints, they say it's true. It is holy. We just missed it. Okay, so let's do 5 minutes. Holy, holy, just inside. Enjoy. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so do you have any questions or comments about choice, practicing choice, especially as regards to times that your mind and heart are trying to depress things? Yes, please. Tomorrow morning I'll get into some nice things you can do. If you feel kind of stuck in a rut of depressing, then tomorrow morning it'll show you more. So I'd like to wait till tomorrow to get farther into it. But that's the point. We have these momentums. We establish with our depressing a momentum. We build up samskars, habits of depressing. So how do we get out of that deep rut, especially if we've been digging deep trenches of depressing, How do we get out of that? So more about that tomorrow. But each of these methods we just did. Hong Sa, not this, expand heart, may your will be done, surrender, all of those help. They help you to chart a new course, get out of your rut and go new. But there's also an important bit of information tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Yes?
What if you're fine and you're not depressed and everything, but then you have to discuss something of an issue with a family member who has a tendency to have a lot of morbid thoughts and just depress themselves, and how do you deal with?
How do you deal with them? When they're depressed, you just love them and you don't try to change them. But in time, you can find there are some ways this person's talking that I could perhaps help them to make a better choice. Or you could give them this book. If they don't mind, say, this book is very helpful for me. I don't know if it would help you or not, but this guy's done wonders with a lot of people.
What if they're having trouble seeing?
Saying?
Seeing.
Seeing?
Uh-huh.
You mean perceiving mentally or?
Physical eye can't see.
Oh, gee. Maybe it's on CD. That's true. Might be. Yeah, probably it is. Probably. Thank you. Yes. Ask the yoga question. What is the blessing in this when the wife leaves? We're really lucky if we think yoga is important enough to do for years. We're really lucky. And if we keep growing in it, we're really lucky. Lucky, yes. I'll settle for lucky. Important? No. Important in the sense that God lives in us. We're one of the places that you can find God. God's living in us and being worshipped and adored on a continuous basis. That's a good thing to happen on the planet. You got these centers of light called yogis here and there. And there are saints in various paths. They're lights also. We'd love to have more and more join us, but the Spirit of God, a love, a light within us as we wander about, doing mundane things of life, that's a real gift to the planet. You have some yogis on it. Okay, well, my time is going, but we're having a moment of reflection and utter joy. So, do you have any other questions? We got about 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
I've spent a lot of time with the 7 steps of loss. It starts with denial, anger, fear, anger.
Bless your heart.
I'm presuming that, every loss is accompanied by all 7 steps. And I'm presuming that what we're discussing here is those times when we either get stuck in one of the levels or we're orbiting between a couple of them. And I found it a useful tool. I'd hate to throw it away.
Use that tool. Use it. There's a difference between grief and depressing. Grief is you've lost someone or something that's very important to you, and your life is affected, even maybe shattered by it. And your body and mind and heart go through a healing process called grief. And it builds you up, and you come out of grief better than you were before the loss. That's the difference from depression. Depression, you kind of do havoc on yourself, whereas grief, you're open to a process that's godly, by which you go on with your life and are a better person for having known that human being, perhaps, and lost that relationship on this earth. So, yes, do those steps, but you can grieve yourself into depression. You can allow your grief to become depression And that's not smart. That's you're not allowing the grief to be whole and healthy. You're taking the grief and making it a cause for several ego problems, and one of which is, in other words, your false self gets to dominate. In grief, hopefully, your soul gets to guide the process. Generally, in depression, your ego is guiding the process. Your false sense of self is running the process by what it thinks and feels and has determined is going on. Is that okay as an answer goes?
It makes sense. I've found where I used this the most was for a while I was part of a job club helping people find work. If they didn't get through the grief over the loss of the prior job, they generally interviewed very poorly.
Yeah.
Either the anger came through or the depression came through, or all they were trying to do is straighten out the prior job. And
Right.
fully get through it. And even small losses, for instance, if you have interviewed for a job and then you don't get it. And again, you have to deal with these steps. And so it's important to do that and acknowledge the depression in that process and go through it.
Well, just realize we're using the word depression in a specialized way, and you may be using the word depression meaning really sad. Or what do you mean? What do you mean by depression?
It's part of loss is the body's defenses drop a little.
Okay.
This is normal.
Yes.
And if you're aware of it and you go through it and you live through it, you come out the other side, then you will heal from that. But it's
Yes.
very easy to get stuck there or in anger or in any of the other.
Yes.
You can get stuck forever in denial and, go postal or something.
Right. Like this wasn't my fault. Yeah, that's right. You could go postal. Term from the last century, that we added to our vocabulary. Postal. But the things we've learned. I don't want to go, but I'm supposed to go. Yes. Save me. But wives, be kind to your husbands. And guys, vice versa. Yes. How do you comfort a 12-year-old who's depressed? Well, they see things, they feel kind of helpless, and they see things in such a narrow picture. Try to broaden up the possibilities to the kid, Don't let him just close down. He's just seeing maybe schoolrooms and parents and that same home and the same situation at home. So you've got to, once again, have him choose to think about possibilities for him, about gifts he's already got. Just open him up. He's trying to close down. Open him up. Like you're opening him up through art. You're opening them up, they're all interested in you and your husband and the world out there. It seems glamorous and interesting. Just try to give them a chance to see bigger, think and feel bigger beyond this problem. But it could be he's thinking there's something wrong with me. So try to help him see something that's not wrong with him, something that's good, and something that's going to give him a chance for happiness. Help him make better choices based on his state of mind. I guess if that's the case, that he's thinking he's heard all that positive stuff, he said, well, what are you thinking about? And what are you feeling these days? And what do you need? Do the Rosenberg. What are you feeling? Are you saying this because you feel this? And are you feeling this way because you need more attention? Or, try to do a Rosenberg process rather than apparently just tell him things he's already heard, that he's already discarded. But remember, you're not a shrink, so you can guide him a bit. It could be he's a troubled guy who needs to have some professional help, but it'd be nice to check out what are the feelings and what are the needs going on. I would say that in working with our doctor this weekend, I wish he and Rosenberg had spent a lot of time together because I can see both of them benefiting so much from one another. Okay, but more about that another time. I like to read a lot of books. I got a lot of books. It's not typical. But I feel in my field it's helpful for me to read and have some background in what the world's interested in. So I do. And I've got this huge collection. And it's a beautiful thing. And I don't think I've ever had a book that didn't have at least one idea in it that was worth the cost of the book. I don't want you to feel you have to emulate me. You don't have to read a whole bunch of books. The most important use of your time is meditation. It's like Yogananda used to say to his chelas, because he got a TV set, I think. Yeah, I think it was a TV set. And so he began to watch TV. Suddenly all the monks and nuns are in there watching TV with him. So he stands up and he says, "Have you had realization?" He said, "No." "Well, what are you doing here watching TV? Get out there, have realization. And then you can watch TV with me." Have you had realization? I want to get on with this.
Okay.
Here we go. You know, doctors have an interesting word. You say what you've got wrong with you. Like, it really hurts here. And the doctor will have this kind of insulting term. He said, patient presents as having. Presents. You know, like you're a fraud and you don't have it here. But that's because there are such things as referred pain. And whatever it looks like you got, you may not have. They can't just take, I got appendicitis. You might not have it. It might be something else. I mean, you might think it's your heart problem and it's something else entirely. There are just so many ways we're sure we know what we got. I mean, I once had a pain here. No, I once had a pain here. And the doctor said it was actually over here. It's referred pain. You ever heard of referred pain? So, I said, oh no, I'm presenting. He'd say, patient presents with pain here, because he found that's not where it is. Because your body is forever giving you information as best it can, but quite often it's wrong. That's fascinating, isn't it? So, very important to understand that in physical health, it may not be what we think it is. Similarly, in terms of the way we appear before others, who knows what's going on in there? I mean, there are just so many things going on. Why do we appear the way we appear to others? Sometimes it's a strategy we learned as little kids to get along, the way we appear to others. Why do we appear to ourselves as what we daily tell ourselves about ourselves? I'm a loser, or I'm a secret success and nobody loves me and knows me, but I'm really great, whatever. How do we present to ourselves, to the world? How do we present? That's the background for considering total behavior. When you are living your life, it's important to consider your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, and your physiology. As you live in life, you'll discover more and more how connected you are. That your actions are expressing you, your thoughts are expressing you, your feelings are expressing you, and also your body, your physical body is expressing who you are and what's going on inside. I mean, actors learn, if they just come on stage like this, everybody knows what's going on, doesn't feel good about himself. I'm just curving my spine a little bit, Arrogance, I mean, just tilted my head a little bit. Presenting. Actors learn how to present. And just the subtlest little thing, the fast walk, the slow walk, the way you walk, the way you hold your head, the way you hold your hands. Acting studies humanity and the way we present. So that when we're sitting in the audience, we can see, oh, he's presenting villainy, or he's presenting kindness, presenting nuttiness. There's just so many interesting things we do to present. But we actually are much more than actors here out in this world of ours. Our total behavior is not just we're doing what mommy and daddy taught us in order to be socially acceptable beings. Our total behavior is activity, thinking, feeling, and our physiology. Our total behavior is a fascinating thing to work with because very often one can help the other along. If your physiology is bad, Just the way you think can influence your physiology. People said in the last days of Jack Benny, he was so beat up he looked like an old man and like he could hardly move. But you put him on the Mike Douglas show and suddenly he's the young Jack Benny. All kinds of people who are used to being in public just are used to having a certain sense of well-being and conveying that, and of their personality, just convey it so easily. So there have just been so many people who can be all beat up or really sick or whatever, and they can just use the help of their thoughts or the help of their feelings to just relate to people in a constructive way or a magnanimous way. It's important for you to consider in yoga and also in daily life, psychologically, for you to consider all these components and how they're working. Very often, inside we're thinking negative thoughts about ourselves and others, perhaps. Or we have a feeling of, I'll never be accepted, or I'm not worth anything. We can have all of these things going on and try to carry life off, try to present like we can do it and we're going to make it. Very important to consider, okay, what do my activities look like to me and other people? My thoughts, what's going on with my thoughts? What's really going on with my thoughts? What is the ongoing feeling I got? And what is this doing to my physiology? And how am I presenting my physical being to other people? These factors of total behavior are so important that our Dr. Glasser says, yes, the way you act and think and feel really influences your health, your well-being. You can, just by the way you think and act, really strongly influence your physical health. We know that we have direct control over our actions. I want to raise my hand, there it went. So I can do that. Foot, all kinds of possibilities of the human organism. Okay. And also we can say, I want to stop thinking about this and think about this for a while. You might go back to some old negative habit, but you can control your body quite directly and your thoughts quite directly. But then, while I'm busy controlling my body and my thoughts, at least my actions and my thoughts, boy, I still feel lousy, or I still feel apprehensive, or whatever it might be. Like Frank Sinatra and all kinds of people say, they get stage fright before they go out there. Just before they go out there, they feel nervous. If I don't feel nervous, I know it won't be as good as a show as I normally do. I need to have that kind of nervousness. Of course, then he began to drink about this much whiskey before he went out there. It was just part of his routine. I don't know if that had anything to do. And then he'd entertain people afterward with, give them their bottle, and he had his bottle, and you'd sit all night and drink and talk to Frank. So, interesting. We feel, in back of it all, like our feelings are not our choice. We can move our physical body. We can make our thoughts focus on something for a while, but my feelings, they're just happening to me. We believe we have no control over our feelings, but actually we do. And even more so, we think, I don't have any control over the physiology of my body. I can control my actions and my thoughts, but not my physiology. But the point that our friend Dr. Glasser makes is, yes, your actions and your thoughts do strongly influence your feelings. You can change your feelings with the help of actions and thoughts. And you can even, down the road, so change the situation if you need to, that through your actions and your thoughts, your feelings come in line, and then very often your physiology comes in line. And he calls that your total behavior. So reality theory is, consider what's going on now, and how may I take positive action, how may I take positive thought, which will subtly and powerfully influence my feelings and my body, my physiology. This will include the way we feel about life, the way we feel about ourselves. It'll include our health. We use positive action and positive thought, and they're like an engine of a train which pulls the other cars along. Very important to do something about your action and thought, especially if you want to improve anything. Action and thought. So the answer to Chandaka's question last night, if you got all these momentums in your subconscious and even in your conscious about life being a certain way and you being a certain person, how do you change that? How do you change that strong momentum, even though you have these more positive thoughts at times? Well, you decide on an action which will help influence everything else. How can I act? What actions can I take? Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's go and call somebody. Maybe it's write a letter. In terms of now, what's going on, what action can you take to improve your experience of now? Reality therapy. What action can I take? And then what thoughts can I hold in awareness that will help this change that I'm working on? How will I change this momentum? I'll create new momentums, actions, and thoughts which change or operate on, influence my feelings, and influence my physiology even. So, you'll recall in the book, this guy's all depressed. His wife left him. So, basically, he's feeling helpless. His wife left him. She did what he didn't want her to do. And he's hurting, so he's now depressing. So in a friendly way, relationship way, the doctor says, down the road after he hears the problem, says, so what action can we take that'll help you feel a bit better? And they decide on, why don't you write her a letter? Instead of phoning her all the time or hanging around her house or whatever you might think, why don't you write her a letter so you can express your feelings and she can have time to think about how she wants to respond. In fact, why don't you write her a letter and tell her you're very sorry about, the way you've acted and been so domineering and unappreciative of her life and her feelings and her rights. You could write her about that, how you truly feel now. And then you could also ask her, why doesn't she come over and we could talk together, the three of us? And so the guy said, yeah. So he's gone from feeling powerless, there's something I can do. Maybe there's a hope that since I'm willing to go to a shrink finally, that she'll change her mind because I'll change and I'll stop dominating her. So how do you feel now? Oh, much better. Because he's thought of something he can do about it instead of being powerless. So it's quite a nice story. She comes. She felt she owed it to him to come and talk, but she said, it's over. And so, it's just over. And so she goes, but she at least came. And then the doctor says, yes, you're really sad right now, but I know the end of this story. And what's the end of this story? Well, you've learned something very profound. You just can't treat women, especially the ones you love, and especially the ones you want to live with. You can't treat them that way. You're not an emperor or a tyrant. You've been behaving like one. You're not going to do that anymore. So I know you've learned a very painful lesson. You're not going to try to dominate the woman who becomes your mate. And I know, since you're making this big change in you, you're going to find another woman that you'll treat way better, who will love and appreciate you because of all these other wonderful qualities you have. And that's what happened. He went from powerless to doing something. And the guy began to lose his depressing habit, depressing things, because he felt he had more power, more ability to change things. He was doing actions and thinking thoughts that would influence his feelings. So eventually, no more depressing. And he found the woman who says, he bends over backwards not to dominate me. He's really wonderful. He doesn't try to he appreciates me. He recognizes my needs and my rights. And so this guy who was depressed became happy. But also his ex-wife wrote the therapist, Dr. Glasser, to say, I want you to know I have found a wonderful husband and we get along great. Just thought I'd, round out this picture for you. And he appreciated that too. So, reality therapy. How are you feeling now? What's going on now? And basically, you're probably suffering from some problems of a bad relationship. And probably that's because you wanted to dominate it and make it come out the way you wanted it to come out. You're not allowed. You don't have a license to dominate other people, even though you try to do it. That's kind of against the law. So you feel powerless and you're depressed. How can we empower you? What can you do? Action and thought influence strongly, but less directly. It's more subtle, but they really influence the way we feel, and we begin to influence our physiology. I don't have to run around feeling like a blue dog anymore, because I'm actualizing again. I'm not just reacting to the fruits of my ignorance. Okay, so that's the beautiful process. That's kind of the hope. And yoga talks about how body, mind, and spirit influence one another, and just how important it is to have your body, your mind, your emotions, your sense of self, and your essence, your spirit, working together. So it's very yogic to think along this line. So let's say you got a feeling that you want to work on. Let's all take one. Have you got a feeling you want to work on? It's an important principle because it's kind of something we need to learn and get good at, and we'll fail a few times. Because we have thought our bad feelings happen to us and we're powerless. Usually that's not the case. Usually we chose them, and we have to remember we chose these and we can choose something else. So the thing is, got a feeling you want to work on? Our project, your assignment, this mission, if you choose to accept it, will involve taking that feeling you want to work on. Consider a positive action you can take today, in your today world, and positive thoughts you can take in your today world. Do something about it instead of just default and let it run roughshod over you. So, we're going to take a peek now. Got a feeling you want to work on? Just about everybody does. We're going to take that feeling into mind, and we are going to, on our own, without the need of Dr. Glasser's presence, but his wisdom present, we're going to think, okay, what positive action am I going to do to bring about change? I'm going to choose a positive action. And once you've chosen that action, also consider what positive thoughts should I be thinking too that would help make this change. And you might be wrong at first, and it takes practice. So let's do this process. Take a feeling you want to work on, in other words, sorrow or anger, helplessness, or whatever it might be. Choose a positive action, choose a positive thought, and just think along these lines, contemplate this, because you can make a change today. So we'll do this now. Enjoy, everybody. Get in there and work. Okay, everybody. Would you care to sing out a positive action that you think, we don't need to know the particular problem, that's private to you, but can you sing out one of the positive actions you're going to take, because that might inspire other people? Just say, what positive action are you going to incorporate?
Organizing my time better.
Organize your time better.
Prayer.
Prayer.
Research a business opportunity.
Research.
Feeding children in Africa.
Yes, feed the children. Yes. Kindness.
Reconnect with my family.
Reconnect. That means going to them and being with them and reconnect with my family. Yeah. Good. Okay. So yeah. Okay. And can you tell me a positive thought that you're going to incorporate? What?
Love.
Love. Good one.
I'm a child of God.
Beautiful.
I'm blessed.
Blessed. Yes. Instead of, I'm not blessed, where is God? Wandering around with the view, I'm blessed. Here's God. God's here, I'm blessed. Yes.
Everything happens to bring us closer to God.
Yes. Everything happens to bring us closer to God.
We're all one.
We're all one. Yes, good.
God is capable of healing everything.
God is capable of healing everything. Yeah. Oh, makes me feel so good. Now, what a yogi would do with this exercise we just did, yogi would say, action and thoughts. But yogis say there's more power if you go inside. You can calm yourself down and contact the inner self. It'll give you much more power. It'll give you more inspired and powerful and resonating actions and powerful and resonating thoughts. So the yoga view is, in addition, you could go inside beyond your confusion and chaos and difficulty and attune through developing harmony of prana and the state of harmony of being. You could go there and have even more power to change, that the divine will move and express more powerfully in your life when you tune in with it. And that's called meditation or superconscious prayer. When you pray so deeply, you become absorbed in thought of God and God's love or God's presence. So that's a beautiful thing to be aware of. It's very nice to do good actions, positive, life-affirming, changing actions. Very nice to do thoughts, but you get more power when you go inside. But it's very important that the actions and the thoughts be renewing and empowering too. That's a very important point. Okay.